This is Dan of Vagabond Buddha. The picture you're looking at is me in India. I left the United States in 2007. I've traveled to about 64 countries at this time. I first kept track of my travels in a private travel blog, which I'll share with you if you like. But then I started Vagabond Buddha, which gives more information about each place, cost of living, things to do, best places to stay, best restaurants, best way to get there, video walking tour, and the best travel or retire cheap to paradise locations in the world. Just click the link below this video if you'd like more information about this place. Now here's our video.
This is Dan from Vagabond Buddha. We're here in Cusco. This is Plaza de Armas. All the noise, it's summer or winter, no, summer solstice, winter solstice. June 21st, shortest day of the year. And we're gonna take you on a little tour of the museums here. First one's up the street here. So this is the first stop on the tour of the museums that I've selected, Museo de Arte Precolombian. And don't worry about keeping track of all these visual sites here on the video, because if you click the link below this video, you'll find a walking tour map at Vagabond Buddha. So let's go inside and see what they have for us. Here's an interesting map just inside to show you the corresponding times in the western part of the world. Here you can see that at the end of the Hittite Empire, 1200, you had here in this area of the world, which includes the Inca Empire. You had this is pre-Inca. You had these various societies that existed from 1200 before Christ. It's interesting that the Paracas, we visited Paracas, and the Chavan we saw up in northern Peru, and then the Nazca, which started around the time of Christ's birth. We saw, for example, in Nazca and other areas, and then the museum has pieces from all these periods, pottery and clothing and whatnot. And then, of course, the Inca didn't really get underway until about 1300 AD, and so there's pieces of art here in all of those areas, all of those time periods. And of course, going back to in Europe, you had the Roman Empire. So while the Nazca and Mojica were starting, and the Crusades, the Dark Ages, if you will, different periods in Roman time and Aztec up north. Let's see what they have here. This is Mochica society, which existed from about Christ's birth up to 800 after death. And this piece is from Nazca, which is about the same period. And there's a lot of nice pieces here. Beautiful pieces of jewelry, definitely worth a visit. Here's some Chimu pieces, getting closer to Inca times. This piece is somewhere around 1300. These are like silver clothing that priests and kings wore through most of the eras here in South America, starting, around Christ's birth. Some of the metalwork from dating as early as 1200 before Christ. Here's some Chimu era woodwork, which is about 1300 after death. More Chimu from the same period. A lot of these are found in the temples, buried with kings and priests. Forgive my pronunciation, but this is from the Kupis Nike period, which is from about 1200 before Christ. This is a nice piece from the same period. Looks like it might be a bird. More Kupasnike from 1200 before Christ to death. And this is Salinar society. These societies all existed. They're pre-Inca. And they existed in all these areas that Inca eventually captured. This is Viru, from the Viru society. Or culture, if you will. Paracas. Oh, beautiful. Beautiful work by Paracas. From the Vicus culture, 1200 BC. This is Viru, 1200 BC. Interesting piece. So those are just a few pieces from the Museo de Arte Precolombian on this beautiful park. Okay, let's go to the next stop. So this is the second stop on the Cusco Museum walking tour. This is Museo Inca, and this is actually probably one of the most diverse collections I've seen in Peru. We spent 8 weeks here going up and down the coast and looking at different areas from about 1500 BC through modern times, really. And this one has a smattering of each. And it's only 10 soles, so if you only have a few hours in Cusco, this is a great choice. But I highly recommend that you get a guide, otherwise it's not going to come to life. You can get an English guide here for 20 soles per hour. It probably is going to take you 2 hours, which is 40 soles, to get through this thing. But it's going to be worth it. It's really going to give you an idea of what's happened over the last 3,500 years here in South America, frankly, but mainly the West Coast. So, thanks. Okay, next stop on the list, Museo Machu Picchu, Casa Concha. Let's look inside. Okay, Casa Concha. Museo Machu Picchu has the same rule, you can't take pictures inside. And so there was this guy named Hiram Bingham, who is allegedly discovered Machu Picchu, which the locals laugh about, but the farmers knew about it for many years apparently. But what this museum is it's the artifacts that were discovered via his excavations of it in 1912, along with some other artifacts from 2011 from Yale University. So 1912 excavation and 2011 excavation. And the pieces are all there inside, and it's definitely worth a look. It's not included in the boleta, so it's 20 soles for adults, which is about $6.50. So behind me is Santa Catalina Monastery. There's also a museum inside. The part of it that's accessible to the public is colonial era pieces, mainly from the School of Art in Cusco, which you can see in many other places. So if you're familiar with that, this may not be worth a visit. I think, although it's only 8 soles, so if you have time, check it out. The thing that's more interesting is about, for me at least, about this spot is that when the Europeans arrived, this was an Inca nunnery, if you will. That's what the Europeans called it. The Inca word I won't be able to pronounce, but the women that lived here, and they were not allowed to see men their whole lives, similar to nuns, and they were to die virgins. There were about 20 here when the Europeans arrived, and they were the wives of the sun, which was an Inca god, and other deities that the Incas worship. So this is Santa Catalina Monastery. I'm going to go inside and look, but again, no pictures. My apologies. So this is the Museo de Arte, Archbishop of Cusco. And as you might suspect, it's going to favor colonial art, but let's go inside and see. Not a bad start for this Archbishop's Museum. Gorgeous courtyard. And sadly, no photos inside the rooms, so I will report what we find. No pictures allowed, but it's a gorgeous museum. And it's not the best curated, meaning there's no tags on the paintings saying who the artist was or what year it was painted, but it's gorgeous, and it's in this gorgeous setting of this colonial, the Archbishop's residence, or palace as they call it. And so it's clearly worth a visit, just so you can capture, you know, the extravagance of the colonial period lifestyle that a bishop would have experienced. And much of the art, I'm sure, on these walls is, you know, was here at the time the bishop lived in this part of the palace. So it's a nice representation. So one of the most interesting, I'll call it, museums here in Cusco is the cathedral. It's the first cathedral in the Americas, north or south, which is, it's not surprising it would be in Spanish colonial territory, because of course in the northern parts at this time, England had broken from the Roman Catholic Church and formed the Church of England to worship Christ, and so it wouldn't have been in America or Canada. And what's interesting about this spot where this church is this is the epicenter of the Inca kingdom, and this is where the gold was. And of course, the Spanish had a lot of interest in the gold, and they also were told to try to convert the locals or kill them if they couldn't, which they did a lot of. And so this church dates back quite a long time, almost to the founding of this city. And what it replaced was an Inca structure, which had withstood literally hundreds of years of earthquakes. And yet, not a single, this church has been rebuilt 4 times, if memory serves me. And not once has it survived an earthquake of the magnitude that the Inca structures survived. And personally, I think the message that Jesus had transcended the expression of it, the human expression of it on earth. And I think in some respects there's a bit of poetic justice, despite how this is probably one of the most beautiful art collections, and this is the first cathedral in the Americas. There's a bit of poetic justice that on this spot they tore down structures that had survived hundreds of years of earthquakes, and put up structures that they have to rebuild every 50 to 150 years as soon as there's a decent earthquake. And we see this all over Peru. The cathedrals just come down every time there's an earthquake. But none of the Inca structures come down. And I almost wonder if it's in some ways a message from the source this manifestation of, if you will, God's word, what's happened here in Peru is not really representative of Jesus' message. So anyway, some thoughts, kind of heavy, but it really is a beautiful experience. You should go inside and see this. It's gorgeous. So there is Templo San Blas, and you can put it in the category of a church if you like, but it's also one of the better museum collections. And there's the cathedral, and San Blas and Santa Catalina and San Cristobal are all available in a 4 package ticket for 30 soles, which is about $10. Definitely worth it for that. So this is the San Blas temple, and I don't know if it always is true, but today the door was open to well, not all the way to the top of the steeple, but at least to this level, and so enjoy the view. That over there is the cathedral there, and Plaza de Armas, and the beautiful skies of Peru.
Thanks for listening to our video. If you enjoyed the video, please click like, leave a comment below, subscribe to Vagabond Buddha, or click the link below in the notes below this YouTube video to find out more about this location or all of the Travel Cheap to Paradise locations on Vagabond Buddha. Thank you.